The gates of Isengard are ahead of you and they open as you arrive home. There's quite a bit of order, actually, considering that you've just been in a battle. The Galadrim move still in perfect unison through the gates. And they're near as strong as they were when they left. Dunlendings are brought into the fortress, for many of them the first time that any of their kind have been put in here. And they are stunned to see it from within. And they're billeted by the western wall, and High Chiefess, maybe Queen, Taranan, gives a nod in your direction as she guides her people. You find yourself atop the back of a horse, and your hands are gripping the reins with white knuckles. People all around you, the armies of the free people of Middle-earth, are going about their business, embracing their loved ones and laughing and singing songs of victory. There's no sound to you, sort of a high-pitched whine that hasn't left you since you left the battlefield. And the smiles of those who celebrate around you seem to twist into laughter, mocking laughter even. How can there be joy here? Nariel, you move pretty quickly through the throng and you push past and push people out of your way to bring Glindair to Lord Elrond, because if there's anyone in Middle-earth that could save him, it's him. Although maybe there's a pit in your stomach at the thought of facing him after this and the advice that you gave. But it's a blur as you push past attendants and labourers into the Tower of Orthanc and up through the levels, and you come upon Elrond at a balcony. He's facing out over the works below, and his head will sort of lower as he hears you, and it's clear that he already knows. Cost of the victory laid bare before you. I'm sorry, Nariel. Tried to warn you that the cost would be too great. Let me see him.
Thing to be done.
He'll move over and look as you lay him down. Some foul sorcery is within him. And for the Lady of Lorien, I will need her assistance in.
I think it is a blur as an Ariel.
I will go and find her, says Beregond, who helped you with the body, and he goes off looking for Galadriel.
You must understand, Honoriel, that it is Glindair that holds his fate in his hands. He tested in the halls of Mandos. His purpose is pure, and he has learned the lessons of his life. He'll look at you with a raised eyebrow, like that seems likely. And it's possible that Mandos' judgment will return him to us, but Mandos' judgment is a mysterious thing.
And I must simply wait.
I do not wish to give false hope. You must understand how rare it is that any return. Greater heroes than Glindair have fallen.
Thank you for your honesty, Lord Helm.
Good. Now help me with this. And he'll busy you with tasks, minor tasks that he can do himself. But he sets you to getting bandages ready and soaking them in water and things like that and making sure you're prepared. He hassles you about the minutiae of all these little things, even though you don't think it's actually important. He makes sure that you're busy doing them. Galadriel, the Lady of Lorien, maybe the most powerful elf that lives, floats as she does in all places in the forging room where you can see there's still a lot of work being done, and they have, in your absence, a sort of cover has been built around the ring so that none can approach it and touch it. And it seems that work is truly underway. And as you enter, she will look in your direction, and from across the room ask,
Elrond, Glindair has fallen, and Elrond asks for your assistance.
yeah, she'll nod, and then sort of smile at the dwarf next to her, politely excusing herself, and then sort of float, vanish, and appear with you, join you.
Baragon looks at the dwarf. Does he recognize the dwarf?
Just one of the craftsmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, against his will, but sort of he looks to see if he can get a glimpse of the ring.
Yeah, you could hear the
And trying to look natural, he just tries, he tries to look like nonchalantly curious, just
yeah.
to have a look.
There's like a plinth that's been built at the center, and set into this is the ring, and around it they have built like supports and protections so that none could walk up to it and take it. I think you sort of like are trying to look nonchalant, and Galadriel will absolutely spot that with no issue. It is a beautiful thing, but it must be destroyed, Baragon.
Of course, he says, let us go to Anariel, he says, turning and going out of the room and letting out a breath as he goes out.
I understand the temptation. I wanted to hold it. Simple golden band brought so much. But it is not simply beautiful. Most dangerous item that whoever will be, we can hope.
You will. Saruman said you could undo the influence of Sauron on it. You could unwind the evil that he's wound into it. When that is done, I would like to see it again.
Perhaps remains. We can look at it together. We do not yet know what the unforging look like.
Glindair is unforged, and he needs you. Anariel needs you. Oh, and he as they're hurrying as he's hurrying with you towards the chambers, as he's hurrying with Galadriel towards the chambers, he hands over a headband of braided gold and mithril that Glindair wore around his head, and with 3 bright emeralds on it, and says, this seems to have come into my possession, but it's Glindair's. Maybe he loves it's made by his own hand, and Aglathbol, maybe his own creations will help focus his soul on back to Middle Earth, if there is some way to. I don't know if anything can be done. He looks dead to me, but I don't know. It is not mine. It is elven made, but I feel a bit awkward passing it on to an Ariel, and I'd appreciate it if you did it," he says, handing over the crown of glory that he stole from, picked up from Glindare's body.
Things I imagine often find them. Perhaps they up there.
I'm a student. I study
Collector.
things and then occasionally forget who I borrowed them from. But this I know.
Well, let's give it back to him and see if we can wake him. The next morning, a force arrives from Gondor. There's this column of shining metal and black banners emblazoned with the white tree. Also among them are blue swan banners of Dol Amroth, red flower banners of Lossarnach, flowing rivers of Lebanine, and the three fish upon the green banner of Belfalas, all of the strength of Gondor. Marches as one here, it seems, or a great host at least. And Farath, you look upon the flame of the north, which has served you so well for these days and years, but it's been badly handled over the last while. Fought a great many difficult battles, hacked against armor that it should not have, and it is crossed with other blades that maybe it should not have. And there are several chips upon its blade. That won't do for a king's blade, lad. And then there's this like thunk as this massive meaty hand lands on your shoulder. And you can see King Firebeard. He means well, but like the force of the pat on your shoulder is like actually quite painful. And his hand is incredibly heavy.
Yeah, the force of it and the sudden addressing of him makes him jump. Faroth has been doing his best to avoid the others since they've returned. He's done his best to not meet the gaze of Anariel, and has kind of been keeping to himself. But at this sudden jolt, he says, "Master Dwarf, forgive me. I was watching the forces of Gondor arrive. It is true, this blade has served me well, but it has seen better days, the like of which can be said of most around here."
No way for a king's blade to look. Let me reforge her for you. Coronation gift to the King of Gondor.
There's almost like a protective kind of like gesture of Faroth sort of like clutching the blade to him. He knows that dwarves are mighty craftsmen, but still, this sword has been responsible for saving him a number of times. But eventually he sort of like casts those thoughts aside and with a reverent nod, sort of like hands the blade to the dwarf.
I'll pretend like you gave me a coronation gift a couple of 100 years ago, he'll say with a grin. And then sort of a sly wink, and then we'll wander off with the sword. He's like a very important king, but he doesn't act in any way kingly that you've seen so far. He's got that sort of dwarfish mischief about him. And the sword looks a little silly in his hands. It's like as long as he is, longer even, but nonetheless, he'll go.
Yeah, Farrell's smile is held for a moment and then it fades again, and he's just looking to the ground like he's surrounded by the busy work of everyone getting ready for battle. And he's used to always having a goal to push on towards, and at this point, they are simply waiting for the fate of the Elven Warrior to be decided. And then rolling his shoulders, he decides he's going to go and try and find Saruman if he can.
Yeah, when you rise and turn, you can see that standing awkwardly at the door, not sure if he's coming in or out, is your father. And then he sort of looks and says, Farath, with a voice that sounds like nails upon chalk to you.
Farolf is immediately taken aback. Feels like a punch to the gut almost.
I hear
And then he
you've made
says,
yourself the king of Gondor.
"The crown of Gondor became my right, and it was my duty to take it when I did, Father. I took action."
You never did have that moot. Or
"No, we did not."
I've not come to quarrel with you. Can we sit?
Farolf looks around, just begging for another dwarf to approach him to ask to remake another weapon, begging for someone else to take his attention, but none comes. So he just gives a nod and follows his father.
Yeah, he goes and sits, and he sort of like looks out over the balcony and into the gap of Rohan beyond. A lot has been lost, Barath. A lot of friends, a lot of beautiful things.
Yes. Too many things. Too many friends.
I see that you have your mother's easy charm with people, and that you have her smile and her way with people. Not something that I ever had. Thankfully, you have her looks as well. But what you have from me is harder to see. If I was hard on you, he says, possibly with the biggest if that's ever been said to you. If I was callous and cruel and mistreated you, then I intended to forge you. Every blow of a hammer makes iron harder, and every cruelty and hardship that you've suffered under me has forged you into the man that you are now.
Aye, it is true, Father. You have made a mighty weapon.
But I see it, Farath, in bravery that sacrifices you for the sake of the realm. And in the easy words of reassurance that you give to others around you, and in the strength of your sword arm and the timbre of your voice, you have made hard choices. Not for your own glory or your own aggrandizement or for personal reasons. Always, I am told, you have done so for the free people of Middle Earth who need it most. You've made the hard choices, sacrificing yourself and even friends for greater good.
You've made hard choices too, Father. I always understand it was those choices that led you to the actions that you took, not just for me, but for our people. I know this now.
He sighs, and it's like 10 years come off him. I don't expect you forgive me for the way that I've treated you, but it's not about me. I did for a time think it was, but I know better now. And in spite of all that I have done, you've become a man worthy of the title of king.
Yeah, this is probably the first time Farolf's father's said he's worthy of anything. But at this stage, it's difficult to see whether that shows on Farolf's face at all. But he looks at his father, and he just gives a nod. I thank you for your words, Father. And if it brings any comfort to you, I'm glad you will be here at the end.
Too. And he'll sort of sit and look out, unable to like meet your gaze, but clearly deeply emotional. I think that's probably the hardest thing he's had to do in his life, and he's literally had to do things like you have done for your whole life. The streets of Gondolin are paved with stone and wide, curbed with marble. There are houses. Courts amid gardens of bright flowers are set about the ways, and many towers of great slenderness and beauty, built of white marble and carved most marvellously, rise to the heavens. Squares are lit with fountains and homes of birds that sing amid the branches of their aged trees. But of all these, the greatest is that place where stands the king's palace. And the tower thereof is the loftiest in the city, and the fountains that play before the door shoot 20 fathoms and 7 in the air, and fall in a singing rain of crystal. Therein did the sun glitter splendidly by day, and the moon most magically shimmered by night. And the birds that dwell there are the whiteness of snow, and their voices sweeter than a lullaby of music. On either side of the doors of the palace are 2 trees, one that bears gold, and the other silver blossoms. Nor do they ever fade. They are shoots of old from the glorious trees of Valinor that lit those places before Melkor and the Gloomweaver. But that beauty fades now, as the city is overrun by foulness. Orcs crawl over every part of Gondolin, and leading them are the mighty Balrogs, chiefest and greatest of which is Gothmog, their lord, leader. You have battled for days within the great market, but it was on this day that King Turgon the Wise and Ecthelion of the Fountain fell. Ecthelion brought low Gothmog, but fell with him, and it was then that your people decided to flee, and you've been running for days, with what remains of your strength after the Battle of Gondolin. Your people have fled through Idril's secret way up into the mountains, and your sister, Anoriel, held the line to ensure that there was time to escape, and you stood with her, battling orcs and balrogs that assailed the great market in Gondolin. Now, you try to run from this city and through these secret ways and avoid the orcs and balrogs that seek to destroy what is left of the House of Golden Flowers. So you run, Glyndare, with Anariel and with Glorfindel and other heroes through Gondolin, through these secret ways. How will you escape? The path ahead is a steep mountain with narrow passes and difficult terrain all around. And you are leading, actually trailing behind the royalty that remains here in Gondolin. And they are fleeing with you, and you are guiding them with Glorfindel, with Anariel and others. I'd like you to do a skill challenge to make it from Gondolin into Pass of Idril.
Perfect. Glindo, his heart is heavy while he flees. The fall of Gondolin felt all too keenly, and he feels a longing to back to before the orcs streamed in here, that he might wander its streets and marvel at its towers and statues and trees and trail his hand through the fountains and sing along with the birds. But it is not to be, since the forces of the enemy have fallen so hard here. So he looks to the task at hand, looks forward rather than back, and thinks that such sweet things and such joys of life will come again if he can but survive him and his sister and Glorfindel and the other elven lords.
There are orcs everywhere. Just thousands upon thousands and thousands of them. And there are thousands of Balrogs that have been fighting for days in the Great Market. And that's where you saw Gothmog battle Ecthelion, and that they defeated each other in the final blows and fell into the fountain. Now you're running as fast as you can at the back. You held the door and the line with the other warriors while the royalty made their way from Gondolin. Now you have to lead them and yourself to safety.
And so Glinda will survey the road ahead. You said we're coming up toward a mountain, or what's the immediate
yeah, so you've moved through
situation?
These secret paths that are only known to your people, and you've come out like into the mountains, and your hope is to move through some of these narrow passes and get away from Gondolin and the destruction that awaits it. So any skill that you think makes sense, and it can be any of them.
Okay.
Make it make sense.
Okay, great. Yeah. I think, yeah, to start off, he'll be, or use perception, he'll be inspecting. He knows the cunning of the enemy, and if he does not expect ambush at any turn, then there will be ambush at every turn. And so between him and calling out orders to his to those who he's leading and fleeing with, will be inspecting every peak and looking for signs as a raw perception. And I do get advantage to detect nearby enemies or ambushes.
Perfect. Yep, that'll count.
Excellent. Okay. 21.
Nice. So as you move through the hidden halls and caves beneath Gondolin, you escape to find that there are in fact orcs waiting on you, but with your assumption of that fact, you were able to place the warriors at the front, and with shining blades and great skill, you carve them apart. That's one success.
We carve them apart, and then I think getting the sense that that will not be the only force awaiting them. Immediately, as soon as we dispatch the last of them, not even stopping to wipe the orcish blood from his blade, Belithoniel. He immediately points with the blade over to a pass that he spots, and just bellows in Elvish for everyone to make haste towards there, and we'll sprint over there, perhaps as he sees another force, or perhaps a troll or something like that coming up. We have to make it there before them, and so it'll be athletics to sprint there, which will also be an advantage because I'll be in my battle rage. Oh boy, 26.
Yeah, you beat them to it. You rush to this outcrop, and you're able to like get the advantage of the place and stand there and hold against them. And again, you battle and are able to push them back with a success.
feeling the exhaustion now, but refusing to falter. He looks to his sister. He looks to the elven lords with him, Glorf and Del, and they're leading him. They're all leading each other as much as he is leading them, at least in his mind. For he's the younger of them, less experienced, but he gets the sense that he is leading them in a strange way that he would not have necessarily done during the battle, where he would be following orders. And I think next, in defeating that latest force, Glendow finds himself separated, fighting their way through when he strikes down the final blow at this huge orc that he was dueling off against. He looks around, breathing heavy, to see that he stands alone, and he hears sounds of fighting off nearby to the west. And rather than make his way back around, he spots a formation of stone, a small natural gap in there, and a few footholds along the way, and he'll use acrobatics to take this shortcut himself to join back up with the rest of the force. Sorry, no, that one's not with advantage, so I'll just roll that again with one dice. 22.
Yes. You push on your group, making it through this difficult part and then up into the mountain passes themselves. And you're moving quickly forward and away from Gondolin. You stop for a moment to look over your shoulder and see the great spires and towers, marble, burning. And the city will never be the same again. Aragond, your brother is sitting with some others around a small fire, cooking. You walk by.
Can I jump to something else?
Sure.
As Galadriel is in the chamber, and she focuses her attention on the fallen Glindair, and I don't know if she's handed back the crown, but she can do it some other time. Then Beregond, unable to really help in this matter, he slips out, and as he's walking through the corridor, his mind goes to the room with the ring, and it troubles it. When he first went in and saw Galadriel and the ring, and the dwarf there, he was quite distracted by it, and he can't now remember if there was anybody else in the room except that dwarf, and it worries him, thinking about the influence that the ring had on his companions, how it corrupted them, that there might be just one dwarf left alone with the ring. So he resolves to make his way, because he was less affected by the influence. He thinks he'll go and sneak back and observe the dwarf to make sure he's not corrupted by the ring until somebody else can arrive in the room to work on it. So he'll in order to save, with the best of intentions, he goes back to the room. He sneaks back to the room and sort of watches the dwarf working on the ring, and to make sure the dwarf doesn't show any signs of falling under its influence.
Yeah, you can come back to the forge. it's usually quite a busy place. But you arrive and there's a dwarf you recognize as Thorin. He's not facing the ring. He's across the room from it, and he's working on some item that he's working on. It seems that with the arrival of everybody, that many of the people who usually would be here have come down to greet people who they thought might have died, and things of that nature, and so it's unusually quiet.
So there are only dwarves in here. It's if there's a place to hide, he'll just hide and observe.
Okay. There's no sign of anything particularly untoward as you wait for a couple of minutes. You can see that one of them has gotten a hold of Farroth's sword and is working on it in one of the forges. Thorin is working on some item. A lot of the dwarves are being industrious. None of them gaze too long upon the ring, although occasionally all of them will look over their shoulder in its direction. That's something that...
He noticed his comrades doing that back in Ethedras.
Yeah, that's something that happens to anyone who's around the ring, except for you, maybe.
Yeah, so... if there are only dwarves, it's risky. He's going to stay here until some other race arrives, because he's not influenced by it, but he worries about these dwarves.
Yeah, it'll be a couple of minutes, maybe up to an hour before the smiths of Eregion will return, the elves. And they'll go and check in with some of the dwarves and sort of not quite supervise, but definitely check in and assist with what they're doing. And then there's a mix of people here. No men, apart from you.
Yeah, maybe they need men. I don't know. I don't know whether I want to play this any more than that, but leave it there and come back.
Sure.
Maybe you're...
Arahad will find you, Farroth, and give you a sort of smirk. Had a chat with your father, did you?
Seems he finally caught up. It's good to see you, Arahad. And like he takes out, slaps his arm into his, pulls him close. You fought well as ever.
And you. Hard going.
I learnt from the best.
No, we meant all right. A lot of men here.
Aye.
And landings and all.
Yes. That is a long story.
That you're doing.
And he looks around at the elves, the dwarves, the united front of men, and he says, mostly, I had help.
I've heard a lot of men talking about that there should be a council of men here because there are so many different kinds of men. And there are so many princes and kings and, well, not kings, but lords, and someone needs to tell them who's in charge. I think that's you, Farroth, King of Gondor.
Yes, Arahad. Has there been dissent? Are they arguing?
I wouldn't call it dissent. It's more that the Rohirrim follow their queen, and the Dunlendings follow their chiefess, and the Knights of Dol Amroth follow Prince Imrahil, and so on into infinity. Every single tiny scrap. We've got the Tower Guard who only follow their commander, and we've got the Knights who follow their commander, and everyone thinks that they're the top of the pile. And that's you, Farroth, King of Gondor.
So you're telling me to be assertive?
Yes. I suppose I am.
one of your first lessons to me, and clearly one that I am still learning.
There is a lot going on. A lot of things to try and manage. And that you grieving, well.
Yeah, Faroth stops for a moment. Every decision, every move has its cost. Before the walls of the Hornburg, that cost was great. Yet would have been greater had you not been with us. I will see to sending a clear message to all the cultures of men that we must stand united. They're already here. That work has been done at least.
Might be wise to appoint certain people for certain jobs so that there's a clear order. Currently, there are 50 people who think they're in charge. Or more even.
As a good leader, I imagine it would be wise for me to designate some bold and practiced commander to deliver this news, Arahad.
And he looks behind him, like you're talking about somebody else. Sure, I have no idea who you're talking about, Farath.
Send word to them, friend. I will speak with them.
All right. And then he goes to go and then bows and then goes.
Farrell just shakes his head.
There's no excitement in the ring chamber beyond the fact that eventually Saruman will return to it, Baragond. He'll sort of sweep into it and will be followed sometime later by Radagast, who has returned, along with several of the other elf lords. Will sort of sweep into the room, and they'll move to one side and sort of sit around a large round table and begin discussing in Elvish.
Baragond, at this stage, begins to feel that like a trespasser, like that he's not really supposed to be here. And he's aware of how powerful the people are. And he watches for a moment. He watches for a moment when he thinks he can sneak out unseen and leave. Now that he thinks he's guarded the ring well and averted a possible disaster.
Yeah, as you sort of go to leave, as you look at that table, you'll see that Radagast is looking at you and will sort of do a wink. He knew you were there. I don't know about everybody else, but he certainly had a feeling. But nobody makes anything of it, and you're not in trouble necessarily. So I think you would believe if Saruman had seen you, there might be words. You can see as you're leaving that they sort of surround the platform where the ring is and are sort of...
Saruman promised me that I could use his library anyway, and he's kind of broken his promise to me, so he hasn't let me. But I won't hold that against him. I'll sneak out and make my way to find some countrymen from Gondor. I'm eager to hear some Gondor voices, etc.
Yeah, as you walk down around outside through the camps, you can hear your brother's voice. He calls for you as he sees you sort of wandering. And they're cooking around a small cooking pot, and there's rashers and sausages, eggs, and some fried bread.
Oh, that smells great.
Come and sit.
Gladly. It's been too long.
He's sitting with some others, and he says, "This is Adrahil, Gwilyn, Morwyn, Lothiriel." He points them all out. We've been together since the first day we were accepted into the Tower Guard. This is my little brother, Baragond? You've only become
About-
a big hero.
Well, uh, my brother is exaggerating, but well, we've all got a chance to become heroes now.
And to outdo me, I thought that I would be the one getting into the Tower Guard, perhaps the most prestigious position that a commoner can rise to. Yet here you are, one of the Heralds, finding the ring.
Um, it is the Knights of Gondor who have guarded the borders against Mordor for years and years and held back the storm. There's no competition amongst people who are fighting on the same side.
Yeah,
We
he's
don't do
swelled
this
with
for
that.
glory. We don't do this for glory. We do this for survival.
Yeah, well said. So tell me, it must have been 150 things that you've done since I've last seen you.
And how is his mother still alive?
Yes, she's well. Oh, she wanted me to give you this. And he like rummages around in his bag. Until like he pulls out a bunch of stuff and then finally pulls out these two little wooden carvings. And he says, Father made them for you when you were little and you'd play with them always. And they're two little carvings of the Argonath, so a Sildir and an Arion. And he would like put them onto the table.
Thank you, Belagar. And Argaleb, he's with the Rangers, and it's hard to keep track of them. Have you heard anything from Argaleb in the last months, or no news from the other side of the Anduin?
No news.
Well, when he joined the Rangers, we knew his life was likely shorter than ours.
We all serve Gondor in our own way. He'll sort of look a bit somber, and then there'll be like a from the oil that's cooking, and he'll poke at that.
And you have an accent from the if I'm not mistaken, your accent is from the White Mountains, if I'm not mistaken, from Los Almajas. Is that not correct?
One of the soldiers?
Yes.
Yeah, he'll nod. Yeah, that's right. Ever been? It's beautiful.
Yes, I've flown over on a giant eagle.
He rolls his eyes. Well, actually, no, your brother rolls his eyes.
I haven't been closer than that.
You over on a giant eagle.
And I believe in Cair Andros we met somebody from there.
You'll have to come visit Lassanac in the spring. When this is all over, the flowers are spectacular.
I'd like that when all this is over.
Anariel, what are you doing?
Anariel has been busy, if you could call it that. It is empty and almost numbing. But there came a point where there was nothing left to do. She sat for a time, and then the quiet was too much. And she's currently walking through some of the halls of Isengard, through the tower, watching people go about their business. There's so much to be done. Everyone feels a sense of urgency. And she is empty.
Yeah, there's 3 dwarves that rush past you, are about to rush past you, heading outside, and then one of them sees your face and will sort of like stop. All right, lass, you'd help?
No, thank you. Continue.
We're going to go eat. Come.
I apologize, but it seems that my appetite has left me.
Fair enough. And they'll incline their heads and go.
I think Inario would turn around and Faroth is making his way down the other end of the corridor and spots you and then stops, realizing he can't turn around immediately. Slowly makes his way towards you. Inario.
King Faroth.
Your brother, he kept calling me that.
It is your title.
Yes. He looks down as if he's trying to find the words for a moment. And then he meets your eyes for the first time since before the battle. And he says, I didn't know who to listen to. You or your brother. I've kept both of your counsels well. But in direct conflict, it was too much. I'm sorry.
It is not the first, nor will it be the last of many hard choices you will make, Faroth. I hold nothing against you.
You can tell that Faroth doesn't accept that, even if you mean it. And he simply says, it's a word from Lord Elrond and Lady Galadriel.
The only word left is wait.
More waiting, Faroth thinks, in the back of his mind.
Faroth, if I was too hard on you before, I am sorry. I mean only for you to be the king you have always been and are meant to be.
Because of you and your brother, I am better. I mean that. And you have nothing to apologize for. Without you both, we would have never got this far. Perhaps we can go to the chambers and ask if there has been progress.
There's nothing yet. And it comes to my mind that I go against my own advice. Faroth, I am perhaps wrong to wish so dearly to take Elrond and Lady Galadriel from their task. There is more at stake than the pain in my heart.
But remember, And Ariel, that is what we fight for. That feeling you have without it. This would all be for naught. For us to give in. For us to let go of those we love is what the enemy wants. And we cannot allow that. Always there is hope. You and your brother have shown me that.
I will try to hold on to it. But it seems that you men are more hopeful than I. I thank you for your words, Feroth. You are a comfort. Truly.
Faroth gives a he goes to do the usual bow he does to you, but instead just pulls you into a hug.
There's a moment of surprise, and Anariel will return the hug, and you feel the weight of her grief in your arms. She feels leaden, and there is a deep sigh. Feroth, how could he leave me?
He may yet return. Time will tell.
I don't know if I am strong enough.
You see Farrell's expression harden for a moment, and then he looks at you once again and he says, "You have to be." We stand upon the precipice at the end of days. This is a time for strength, and I believe fully that you have it yet within you. Even if it seems bleak and out of reach. I go now to speak with Saruman. I have a matter that I would ask him about. I mean to speak with our enemy.
Anariel will stand up and brush aside like a single glistening tear. Would you have me go with you? You need not be alone.
Yes. I would like that.
I imagine as darkness is it's getting on towards evening now and the light is getting dim, but from outside, Beragond with his fellow countrymen, he's looking at the carvings that have been sent, and he starts in a voice which is joined by others. He starts singing one of the war songs of Gondor. Guard dogs growl and prick their ears as shadows of some nameless fears pass. Farmers dream and plan next year's grass as the shadows near. Then more join in. Orcud's ghost across the Anduin, bending o'er to blood and ruin, passing Argonath's hands who in ages past they'd fear. Orc, despair your numbers, not all Gondor slumbers. We're the hosts to quiet all your boasts, from Rhuros falls down to the port of Umber. Knights and rangers, we're no strangers. Orcs will find their prey, hide dogs in mangers. Elendil's line still pack dangers. Gondor ta Nimloth. And the song of Gondor sings ringing out across Isengard.
Yeah, amazing. And it's such a clear image that the men are hopeful and can really hold on to hope. There's boisterous singing from Gondor, and even from the Dunlendings across the other side of Isengard. There's similar, maybe in tune similar, but words different songs. There are mournful songs from the Rohirrim, but still they're singing. But from the Elven camps, there are silence. That's great. So you can make your way up the very many stairs to get to the room where the ring is kept. There are a great many people there. Now, as night falls, it seems the moment is coming. You can sort of sense that from the people within the room. And you can find Saruman standing in conversation with Radagast. Radagast is talking excitedly about some news. He's talking about and then these trees, they went to this place and they spent some time there, and it's just incredibly boring Entish news. And Saruman is sort of, yes, very good, yes. And he looks very relieved to see you come in, and will say, "Excuse me," Radagast. Step aside towards you. Troubles you.
Knowing that look of relief won't last long, Faroth steels himself for a moment. He says, Saruman, it has been known to me and many others that Orthanc holds many treasures and many heirlooms from ages long forgotten. I understand that the Palantir, at least one of them, resides here.
So?
I would look into it when all preparations are done. When there are no more swords to sharpen and no more barricades to raise. When we are ready, I would look into the eye of the enemy.
Dangerous task. He is the Lord of eyes, among many other things, and vision through the palace. Horrors. Dream of.
I know. And I know it is a risk. But as we stand here, we have the only thing that he is afraid to lose. I want him to feel that bite of fear. I want him to know that his end is coming. I want him to know that we're ready.
Sort of looks off to the side as if he's listening to something. Maybe he's just processing his own thoughts. Not impossible. Afraid. Once I am. Perhaps you're right. You may make him overcommit back too quickly.
It is my hope, yes, that he drives his forces hard against our defenses. We need everything. Every advantage we can press against him. And though I am proud to look upon all we have gathered here, and he says lowly, it still is not enough.
They're not against this thing.
How does the unforging go?
That is complicated. It will require the attentions of myself, Radagast, Lord Elrond, several others. Try to rip the magic from the ring, enough of its semblance so that it can be handled, and then literally unforged, broken, taken apart. And if it can be broken, Elrond's power can be broken. Take some time. We're almost ready.
Thank you, Saruman, for everything.
I will come to you when the time is ready. You may meet the enemy face to face.
And I shan't be alone. Farroth looks to Anariel at his side.
That is wise. Sweep back over to the table, avoiding Radagast and moving to speak with others. Let's take our break there. Back in a sec. So you are rushing with the other warriors through the pass of Syrian into Kirith Thoranath. Royalty and nobility rush along the narrow pass in front of you, Lindare, in hopes of getting away from the destruction, and you've been moving for hours and believe that you are free of danger. You've been moving, at first sprinting and running, but now moving more quietly, cautiously. And then ahead of you on the narrow pass are a band of orcs. Big. As you rush toward them, eager to protect Tuor and the other royalty. Tuor is the king of men. There is a terrifying sound and a wash of heat. Balrog lands on a rocky outcrop. Between you and your sister stands separated with some of the other warriors. The orcs immediately begin attacking, and you can hear fighting at the front where a lot of the non-combatants are. There are some warriors there, but no heroes like yourself. And the Balrog rumbles something in black speech that hurts you. Your ears feel like they're bleeding from the sound of it.
Gritting his teeth against the genuine pain, torment from the mere presence of this ancient foe, let alone its foul speech. His mind swims, and he glances. He dares take a glance, his eyes off the creature for a moment, to glance over to where his sister Anariel is fighting, and seeing that she is with others, and they fight lesser foes than this one. He thinks to himself, good, and squares off with the Balrog. The blade of his sword, Belegthoniel, covered in black blood. He wields it in two hands as he stalks around, one way then the other, as this huge ancient creature just watches on, not even barely needing to turn its head to see where he's moving, such as the size of this creature.
You can hear shouting from the front of the line where the people are in danger. The orcs are attacking them with little to protect them except for themselves. There's no great warriors there. The Balrog will look around with just a sense of like imperious dread, like it's not concerned. Like look at you like you're a bug. And there's like this rumble that maybe is a laugh, and like the flames will sort of burst from its shoulders and then be into shadow. It turns away from you, ignoring you like you're irrelevant, and turns instead towards Anariel, warriors that are trapped with her.
Immediately, as it turns its back on him, he leaps into action in a fluid motion.
Lindare! Lakarita ihamil mara alasainana. Do what you deem is wise.
As he breaks into a sprint, he hears his sister call out. And she says this, she calls this out to him even as the Balrog has turned and is moving toward her. And as he's racing toward the creature, he wonders on the meaning. What does he think would be wise? What does he think his sister would think is wise? She's always speaking to him of how he's too impassioned. He needs to learn more patience. He's too hot-headed. Give a care to strategy, she always says. Heed your heart, yes, and protect those you love, but live to fight another day. And the resolution in Glinda's mind is neither him, nor Inariel, nor Glorfindel, or any of the other elven lords, or any of the other elven warriors that are here will live to fight, will live to see any other day, and perhaps the day itself will be swallowed by the shadow if this creature is not dispatched. And so he doubles down on his sprinting and leaps and plunges Belegthoniel into the back of this creature to engage it and draw its attention and try and slay this impossible foe.
There's sounds of screams at the front where King Tuar and the other nobles are, as the orcs lay into them unprotected. And you wonder what legacy will follow with the loss of these dynasties. The Balrog laughs as the blade sinks into it and twists. And I need you to make me a dex save, please.
$18.
It flings you away with no effort whatsoever, and it cracks the whip overhead, and rocks begin to fall down towards the warriors. You can see heroes that you have admired splat, fly off the cliff, and it turns to face Inariel and Glorfindel, who are behind it, having no care for you as you're launched 20, 30 feet back. And you can hear now the battle where the orcs and a troll as Olog High are laying into the king and queen and all of the nobility and royalty of Gondolin, who are fleeing with you. You do.
Glindyre struggles to his feet after being cast aside like a pebble skittering down the face of a mountain. And he sees his sister, peace upon her face. And a vague thought comes to Glinda's mind. Tales that he's heard and songs and words that he's read in great libraries of somewhere far from here in a hidden valley. He remembers the fall of Gondolin, but no, that cannot be. And suddenly he's back here, deep in the moment. And he sees his sister with peace upon her face. And he wonders how that can be in the face of such terror and ancient doom. And he sees this royalty being slain before him. And words ring through his mind. You cannot put the fate of one above the good of all, Middle-earth. He wonders on where he heard those words. And he feels a choice that lies before him. He looks to his side where Beligthoniel was cast aside with him and fell from his grip. He looks between the sword and the Balrog. And he looks to what's left of his people here, with whom he's fleeing. There is no defeating this foe. There is only escaping. And just to be clear, Lloyd, is there like a way? Is it all blocked at the moment? Is there a way for everyone to escape if we try?
You cut through the orcs, you could run. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just you're kind of one of the only warriors on this side of the Balrog.
Yeah, yeah. So I think what he's going to do is...
Another thunder strike as the whip smashes into the side of the mountain, and the Balrog takes off and then lands against the warriors. They battle.
Glyndire, hesitating no longer, grabs his sword and races back toward the line. So just to make sure I'm clear, he is now running toward the Balrog, who has its back to him again. That Balrog is besetting this line of elves, and then
imagine that you're on a narrow path. You were moving in a column, and you were at the front of the warrior. The very front of this is like the king and all the nobles. They're attacked by some orcs. They have no one to protect them, really. And then between you and the rest of the warriors, the Balrog landed. So the Balrog's behind you, and the orcs and the royalty are in front of you.
Right, and escape lies in front of us. So yes. The Balrog's not between us and escape. No. Okay. And Anariel is... Okay. So she's behind. Okay.
Yeah, with Glorfindel and like the other warriors.
Yeah. So every fiber of Glindar's being is pressing him and screaming for him to not let this ancient creature continue plaguing Middle-earth. And every other fiber of his being is screaming for him to go and protect his sister. So he is being pulled inexorably, if that's the right word, behind him. But he sees that the future of his people lies in front of him, with the elven lords and the royalty and freedom for at least some of our people. And do what is wise. Those words in Sindarin his sister's words ring through his mind again. And as he's charging back toward the Balrog to try and stand beside his sister as they surely fall to this ancient foe, he falters and slows to a stop, anguish upon his face, the grimace of battle as his chest just heaves. And he hears the whoosh, crack of the whip and the furnace of the Balrog just incinerating these elven warriors that his sister is fighting beside. Ah! With just this cry of anguish, he catches an Ariel on the other side, between the Balrog between the two of them, and he sees peace upon her face as the flames of the Balrog engulf her and those she fights with. And Glindyre, for the first time, and against his every instinct, does not spring forward to avenge her, to save her, to strike yet another blow at the enemy. That is what he has been made for, to do those things. What is wise is to accept another purpose that he was also made for, and to carry on her memory through the survival of his people, through their people. And he turns and joins his leaders and cuts down orc after orc to carve an escape through the end of this narrow passage. Tears and blood both on his face as he lets his vengeance out on orc after orc with fist and headbutt and kick and slash. Storm of steel. Elven fury. It's like a spearhead through this chasm.
There is one among them, an Olag High troll. So not some debased savage creature, rather a noble of some kind, wears bright armor and some sort of bizarre crown that it's fashioned for itself, and it stands between you and freedom fought for.
Oh boy. Yes, I do have advantage on initiative. Oh, all right. So that is, I rolled a 1 and a 20, so that's a 24.
Hey, you go first. It stands in front of you. It's got this big armor. It's like shining armor, and in one hand has this like sword, more a cleaver than anything else. And it sort of chuckles as it sees you. It's like you can see that you have cut your way through orcs, but you think that it's done that itself several times. Looks at you with a sneer. No further.
In Glindyre's fury, more lashing fire than the cold fury that he usually embodies. This is the desperate fury of the elves as their greatest and most beloved city falls. And as Glindyre, on a personal note, his sister has just fallen. And so he takes no heed of the words that this creature speaks, and he, with a few fluid motions, engages with Belicthoniel, parrying and weaving, and makes some attacks. And is this an orc?
Yes, in the broadest sense,
no?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
If you have like a
mechanically.
Yeah, if you have
because I've got Belicthoniel back, you said.
What does it say on the bane? Does it say orcs or goblins? What does it say?
So it's the Goblin Bane thing, which
That's
is
all
to
orcs,
mean all. Yeah.
The same.
Cool. Excellent. All right. So he is attacking recklessly. So first attack is a 28
Hits.
to hit, and sorry, get all my dice here. Damage will be d10 because he's wielding it in two hands. 14 damage, slashing. And second attack, is a crit, my lord.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, excellent. So do damage first. 11, 21, 28 slashing damage, and because it's a critical hit versus a goblin, it deals radiant damage, 4 radiant damage to each adjacent Bane creature to the target, if that matters, but it doesn't in this initiative. But narratively, that's cool.
Yeah, so there's this like as it hits, and some of the other orcs sort of like do the blinded from the light move and try and get away from this from you. They flee. It itself, you can see, is sort of trying to blink away the bright light from the hit that you've smashed it with, and then it lifts its cleaver and is going to try and bring it down on you. It totally misses, blinded by the light, and just smashes into the ground next to you, and then grabs your shoulder and tries to headbutt you with the spiked crown. Still misses. So you're too quick and you dodge out of the way. It tries to grab you and you move out of its reach. That's the end of its turn.
All right. As he frees himself and spins around, uses the momentum to slash in again. And I'm attacking recklessly, by the way, as well. So make sure did you roll advantage for them?
I did not. Okay, the second one will hit with that advantage. Appreciate your honesty. Though you might not.
I'm banking on that damage resistance.
Maybe 29 piercing damage.
So halved will be 14.
Yep, so it does manage to grab you then in the end from the front of your mail shirt and just smashes its crown into you. It's your turn.
Okay. As he cops that hit, he comes forth with a stab. Ooh, not so good. It would still be 17 to hit.
That will not hit.
And so I'll use my bonus action from that miss to give him a headbutt of myself for my hammer hand ability. As a bonus action, after I miss attack with a regular melee weapon, I can make an unarmed attack. So I'll do that, and then I'll take my second sword attack. And this will crit on a 19 to 20. This hammer hand ability is great. My fury courses through my very limbs. My hands count as martial melee weapons at all times.
Oh, wow.
It's so cool. So that'll be mod 20 to hit.
That hits.
And 1d4 plus strength mod. 7 bludgeoning damage. And then the second sword attack. So he headbutts him and then, sweeps around, his cloak sweeping behind him, and then coming in with another slash. Oh, geez. Only another 17, I think that is. Yes. So another miss.
Okay. It recovers from the strike and is going to try and get you again, this time with cleaver. Did you do reckless this time? No.
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
have abandoned me. 18.
AC 18, so that'll hit.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Whatever, mate.
So 23. And I need you to make me a con save.
That's just like slashing or piercing?
That's slashing, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So 11, and then a con save. Sorry, let me just knock that damage down. Okay. And then con save, just double check whether I don't have advantage. So, oh God, no, that's a 4.
Okay, you'll have disadvantage on your next round of attacks as the cleaver like almost stuns you. And it will attack again, and that's a crit.
Okay. I will. Can I use my absorb from my armor?
Yes.
Cool. I have 2 on my armor.
Will be.
So I'll use one of those.
You're halving it, so you'll take 26.
Cool.
From that,
Yikes.
so once again, it like as you're kind of stumbled from the hit from the cleaver, it smashes its horned helmet into you, and then it's your turn. You have disadvantage this round.
Ouch. Yes. Okay. So it just cancels out if I'm attacking recklessly.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Do I want to attack recklessly though? No. But then they'll have disadvantage. Okay, this round I will again. Oof, getting hammered though. Yikes. So that is 18 to hit
18
with
is
the sword.
correct.
Hey, okay, cool. And that's 3 on the die, but I get like some ridiculous plus to the damage. Sorry, I have to just keep scrolling up and down here.
Good.
So it's 12 damage.
Okay.
12 damage because he's a goblinoid. And second swing, there we go. That's more like it. 17 on the die. So that'll hit. That's like 27, 26. And 16 slashing damage.
Yeah, it's in bad shape. You've hacked at it repeatedly, and you can see that it's bleeding black blood from various wounds. It's moving a little slower, but it will now strike at you. You attacked recklessly there?
Yeah.
16?
No.
With advantage and everything. Okay, that's better. That's 24.
Yeah, that'll hit.
23. Half of that.
11 again. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
So once again, it like swats at you with one hand and misses you, but it seems to be incredibly accurate with this head strike. It like stomps on the ground, and as you move out of the way, it smashes its head against your turn.
The blood and tears upon his face sort of glisten and splatter away as they as he cops this headbutt, and he spares a quick glance in his fury to see how his people who are fleeing are faring. They're still narratively hacking down orcs as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he looks to them, sees them fighting, and is spurred on by taking his vengeance of the loss of his sister and his other people out on this creature. And yeah, his reckless attacks are usually very precise, but this is very much actual reckless attack this time, not just putting himself in, elvishly putting himself in harm's way. He's fighting with the ferocity, approaching that of perhaps even an orc. So so no more disadvantage this round?
Yep, you're fine.
That was just a 1 round thing? Okay, great. Yeah, he's going to keep attacking recklessly to try and get that sweet crit action. So 23 to hit for 13 slashing damage. as he feels Beligthorniel cut into the flesh of this creature, but doesn't let it linger in there long. Fluidly flows through as he keeps dancing the dance. And a 24 to hit for 15 slashing damage.
Still stands though, barely. It's sort of like rumbling and will clumsily strike at you, but you think you almost have it. And that was practice too, hey? So 17.
Nope.
It's a 10 to hit, and I'm rolling with advantage. Okay, 26 will do it.
That will do it.
26, so you'll take 13.
Oof.
But it's
This is a big
clumsy, and
cleaver.
you see it like stumble back and like into the side of the cliff and like push itself back and swing lazily at you and manages to catch you. And you can hear the whoosh, like crack in the air with the Balrog's whip further down. And it's your turn.
Yeah, he thinks of those people over there being beset by the Balrog, and how usually that would be in other circumstances that would be him putting himself being the sacrifice, to let everyone escape. And so he is not going to let their sacrifice be in vain. And he calls out, Anariel! Himself slowing as much as his enemy is, their limbs growing heavy from the combat fatigue. But still, to him, he feels like he's getting sluggish, but, to the cinematic observer, he's still got this fluid elven combat to him. Oh, God. It's an 18 to hit.
That's a hit.
For 17 damage. And then the second attack is a 19 to hit for 13 damage.
In Orthanc, someone runs to find you, Anariel. My lady, he stirs. He called for you.
Anariel does not hear the last words as she is moving swiftly past the faceless person, seeking out the room where Glendaire was.
Yeah, you can see that he's like pale, deathly pale, and the wounds have these like black veins around them from when he was attacked by the Nazgul, and he is icy cold to the touch, but he's sweating, feverish, and he's mumbling something quietly, like unhearable, inaudible. It's actually just he sort of like occasionally like jitters or shakes.
Is Elrond here? Yeah. She would go swiftly to Glendaire's side, putting her hand upon his forehead, and feeling the coldness. What is happening?
Being judged.
What can I do?
No.
I will keep watch over him.
Yeah, he gives you a look that expresses apology and hope. It's unusual. Both of those. He'll rise and leave.
Arath would have followed Anariel to the side of Glendaire, and looking at you, Anariel, he says, take his hand. Give him strength.
It is hard to hope, Therath.
will know you are here. Give him what he needs.
Thank you. And she looks at you and then to her brother. Would you leave us, please?
Varth leaves immediately.
Anariel strokes Glendair's hair, takes his hand. Manduil, why have you left me? How can I hope without you here?
And then amidst the inaudible mumblings, you quite clearly hear in your name.
Hope fades into the dark of night, through shadows falling out of memory and sight. Don't say we have come now to the end. White shores are calling. You and I will meet again. Manaya, Manhanir, Ayin, Boy, Lodolelisa, Gigayet Panin, Beditha, Anafaxi, Virenknin Dalosto. What can you see on the horizon? Why do the white gulls call across the sea? A pale moon rises. The ships have come to carry you home. Adhambaditha, Aheles Celebrin, Saladiboam, all souls pass into the west.
It strikes at you again. I forgot what turn it is. Did you just go?
I just went and dealt a bunch of damage to it, yeah.
So it misses once and it hit once. $14, so you'll take 7. And it's your turn. And you have inspiration.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. Okay, I will. So I feel like Glindo.
Actually, you can have Anariel's Hairseer advantages.
Oh, yes. Incredible. So absorb 7 damage, advantage on some saves, and reroll 1s on damage dice, I think. 1s and 2s. Yeah. Okay, awesome. That's incredible. That makes sense. Okay. So Yeah, obviously, cinematically, this would be cross-cut, I assume, with the after a bit of an Ariel singing over Glindar's body, then we'd cut in with her song persisting over the fight as Glindar fights on desperately, bolstered by little does he know her physical presence over his body, but just the memory and the vengeance that flows through him in her name, in her honor, to dispatch this final foe so that their people can flee. And he is, this is the desperate last end of this battle, basically. Oh, thanks, Taylor. It's in the side there. Great. And yeah, I cried. Thank you for that. That was amazing. 25 to hit for the first attack. I am attacking recklessly still.
That's definitely a hit.
That is max damage, so 19 slashing.
Does it?
Hey.
So you leap up onto the side of the troll, kicking off the side of the cliff and landing on its back, and you can begin to lay into it in a way that it cannot get you, and take the thing down. It stumbles and falls, and with it, the remaining orcs flee, and your people can run. As you look back, you can see that the Balrog is flung from the cliff. And Ariel, Glorfindel, and other warriors are on it, fighting it as they tumble to an endless fall. And Glindar's eyes open, weakly at first. There's like some trick of the light, it seems, maybe some feeling that something is unusual here. His dark hair is no longer dark, it's pale, almost white. He is pale himself, but definitely here in Middle-earth.
Glinda.
And Ariel. Oh, sister. He says as he sits up and embraces, and the two of them embrace. I thought I'd lost you forever. He says, cut flashing back to the Balrog, just incinerating her.
I cannot.
I think
I did not dare hope. Can you stand, or you are changed? You are different.
Does he, apart from feeling weak, does he feel different, Lloyd? Or you're muted.
You can remember it. You've been in Gondolin. Like, feel that. You've been to Aman and Valinor and the lands in the west. There's maybe a sense of like history or some weight on you that's more than her. Like, it's not just you.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so when you ask, can he stand? He goes, wiping his face. I do not know. Surely I can. And he'll sort of turn and sit on the edge of the bed, and before he attempts to stand, he'll with his feet off the bed, as he sits there, he'll look up to you. I was at the fall of Gondolin. I've seen. I do not know what I've seen. I feel as though I have been to every corner of the Middle Earth and the Undying Lands. Yet I know that I have not. I fought beside you, Glorfindel, King Tuan. So many fell. You told me to be wise, to do what was wise. And he sort of looks away. I left you to the Balrog so that our people could escape.
And she takes his face in her
Was
hand.
that wise? He looks up at you earnestly. Was that wise, sister?
She takes his face in her hands and kisses the top of his forehead. Yes. Yes, it was.
Seem, Glendair, that you have learned the lessons of your life, Elrond will say. He sweeps around the corner.
Lord Elrond. And then he'll try and stand hastily and falter and have to lean on an arrow.
Not yet well. We'll sit.
He'll nod and sit back down.
A likeness to people I once knew. So looks through you for a second, it seems. Glad you are well. We are all called into the forge. You can walk.
And it is beginning.
Yeah, Glendarin and Ariel share a look, and Glendarin nods. His face suddenly back to business, remembering the task at hand and the stakes. He's felt as though he's just escaped the most dire assault from the shadow, but the true one is yet to come.
And you, Faroth and Beregond, would be called as well, as along with all of the commanders and chiefs and people like that, into the room where the ring is. Gurney hands you the sword, Faroth. And it shines and it's beautiful. And he's worked the white tree design into the crossguard. And there's a symbol of 3 snakes, pommel. And he says, I know that it's usually 2, men and elves, but I thought we might fix that if we live through this.
Faroth looks upon it, eyes wide with the splendor of the blade. He takes it up. It feels lighter than before somehow. He holds it sideways and balances it just above the crossguard to see that it is perfectly balanced still. And then taking it up once again, he rests his hand upon Gurney's shoulder and he says, my thanks, friend.
You'll need it. Saruman looks at the assembled and you can hear the strange music of the ring. And he says, what we are about to begin is the greatest work of magic of this age. Once we begin, we cannot stop. The ring will do all it can to try and stop us. Powerful and insidious. These warriors here, and he'll gesture, and there's some of the Galadrim are here, their most ancient guardians, all wearing masks, are here to ensure that none of us take the ring should we step forward there to strike us down. He says that to them. And they sort of and nod. That is a sacrifice we are all willing to make. And Elrond, Gurney, Galadriel, Thorin, the other smiths, all Radagast, everyone nods. When we begin, Sauron will know with absolute certainty that he has little time. He will not hesitate to throw his entire might against us. Those of you who will command the defense of this place, I wish you good fortune and a strong arm. The fate of this Middle-earth rests in our hands now. Let us begin the unforging of the One Ring, the final battle for Middle-earth.